The summertime is jig time. Jig time is now time. Throw a jig all summer long to catch big bass. But here's some modifications, tricks, and what kind of trailers I like to use in the summertime to catch fish. Hey guys, Ryan here with Fish North Georgia, and summertime is jig time, as you already heard me say. And here's the things about jigs. We all have our personal preferences. We all have our favorite jigs. You know, there's of course my personal favorite ones I make: a True Grit tackle jig, Chattahoochee jig, Georgia jig from Georgia Blade, Dirty Jigs. Picasso has their little spotty. The one big thing about it is, in terms of jig fishing, especially in the summertime, is pick a jig that profile and color and hook size that you like for the situation that you're fishing with. Okay, we all have our personal preferences. We all have the ones that we swear to. We all have the ones that we love. For me, of course, like I said, it's a True Grit tackle jig. Got a lot of properties in the way that I make these jigs is what I like to do them. 5/0 hook in the 3/8 and the halves, standard, quarters, go down to 4/0. I like the bigger hook. That's just me personally. Dirty jigs, they have a bit of a bigger gauge hook, thicker wire on them, a little bit stiffer of a weed guard. You know, there's all different kinds of things that they all have that we all like, and you know, for the most part, you're not wrong with any of them. Pick one. My biggest advice is pick one that you like and go with it. But there's certain little nuances that we can do, and I'm going to show you a couple little things for the summertime that I like to do in terms of modifying my jigs, the jig trailers that I use, what situations I like to use them. I got 3 that I really like to use some form or fashion of them in the summertime. So let's go check them out. And the first one is like a Strike King rodent, little flappy tail right here, almost like a beaver style bait to a certain extent. These on the back of your jig, they skip really well. So if you get on a dock pattern, and the dock pattern is that you see bluegills, you see brims that are hanging around the docks, black and blue jig, green pumpkin jig, whatever your favorite color jig is, with some form of like a beaver or like a little rodent like this. It has a brimish tail action to it. You know, as you can see right there, you just have just these little bitty flappers. As the jig falls, it kind of falls like this, you know, on the back of that jig, just like so. Okay, so the little bitty beaver styles, the rodent styles like this with the 2 twin flappers, they distribute a bunch of water, and they flow out a big pulse, should I say, in the water as they go down. So as they're going down, they're flapping like this on the back of your jig. You know, these are really good baits, especially for brim. So if you visibly see brim and you're fishing docks, maybe fishing blowdowns, lay down trees, you see a lot of brim, this is my #1 option. #2 option for crawfish eaters. You can also emulate brim eaters with this too, but it's typically with crawfish eaters, and that is just a simple type chunk. This one right here just so happens to be a Strike King super chunk. I can't remember if that's the exact rage chunk, excuse me, that's what it is, sorry about that. A Strike King super chunk, rage chunk. These have real elastic legs right here. You know, they flop down just like this. You know, you're gonna put it on the back of your jig right here, and when it's down there on the bottom, whatever it is, it's standing up basically just like this. If I could get it to go that way, it's standing up just like this. Real defensive posture here. Looks like a crawfish legs or arms right there, crawfish crawls right there. So these work really well, again, with skipping. These also help with a big profile. When you're needing a kicker bite, put a super chunk, put a Zoom super chunk, put a Strike King Rage chunk on the back. You know, a pack of chunk, those are good for net bait. Any of those kind of chunk style baits that you may like, you know, put a chunk on the back of it. You're not going to get a ton of bites, but when you do get a bite, you can pretty much guarantee it. You tell your partner, if you're fishing with your partner, get the net, because it's going to be a pretty good fish. So this one, like I said, I'll skip docks with it. I'll throw it around trees as well. But where I will not use this one is when I use this one, like that one, you can get big bites on it, don't get me wrong, but I catch more limit quality filling fish with this compared to a chunk style bait. Big bite, big presentation, big jig. That's what I like to do. The last and certainly not least is some kind of little flappy double-tailed grub sort of type trailer. This is a Gambler Lures Back At You right here. You're going to notice that the colors here that I'm keeping are pretty summerish. Brim, dark color crawfish, summertime. You know, with all of these here, we've got green pumpkins and blues. That's pretty much, you know, that's kind of the staple colors here in the summertime. No matter where you go, these will work. But the little flappy, you know, the double-tail grub styles like this with like the zoom speed crawls, the ultra vibe speed crawls are one that come to mind with these. This is, of course, like I said, the Gambler Back At You. It's got a lot of wavy action. So as you throw that jig down there as it's falling, it's going to be sitting here doing this the whole time. And then when it's down there on the bottom, again, profile with the jig, it's going to be sitting here like this. Okay. As you pull it, they're just going to kind of flap a little bit. And as you hop it, they're going to be flapping as you go. So, but the one thing that I always do with these, with like the Back At Yous, the zoom speed crawls, and the rodent styles right here, you're going to be able to intertwine these all together. And I'm going to show you how to do it. All three of these. All right, so for the rodent style bait, I'll take my scissors or I'll use my teeth, whichever one you want to do. And I'll cut, say about that much of it off. Okay, I have a little bit of it left over right there. After I cut these off though, the next thing that I do, and I'm going to be telling you this right here, is I come back in here and I cut just a little bit more of that off. You can see I just cut a little bit more off. I have a little bit of a nub basically right here. I'm going to set those nubs to the side, and I'm going to show you why here in a second. So first, rigging up the rodent. I want it to be a short stubby profile here. Alright, just go straight in the middle, just like so. Come right out. Push it up. There you go. Okay, that's what it looks like. Good little compact jig. These little be rodents like this that you can put on the back that are really short like this. They work real well for your little finesse jigs, for your tungsten style jigs, for your Picasso little spotties and stuff like that. These are the ones that work really, really well for those. I really like them a lot because just the profile of it is just, it's real compact, as you can see right there in my hand, just like so. It's a compact style right there. So that is pretty much how I rig it right there. It's straight. That jig sitting down here kind of on the bottom just like this. That skirt's flailing all around. And these little tails are just basically pretty much just up just like that in the water. The next one that I like to use is, remember we cut this off right here. Okay, off of the little chunk that we had, the little rodent piece right here where we cut that off. And we cut that other little nub off the front of it. Okay, we're going to the chunk. The super chunk, the rage chunk, wherever it may be, whatever your favorite is. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to come in here, and we're going to take that little bitty piece just like this right here. We're going to make sure we put the narrow end to the back. Okay, it's really important. Just thread that up there just like this, come right out the middle, run it up there just like so. Okay, there's your end result. And you're going to take your chunk style bait, whatever it may be. You're going to come in here just like this. You're going to pierce right there in the middle, just like a stuffed Chips Ahoy cookie from back in the day. But as you can see here, you have a much larger profile here. You can also, so when this is sitting here and this is up here, you have more of a dominant crawfish profile, just like that right there. Okay, also prevents this from sliding up. I'm not a big fan of taking these chunks and sliding them all the way up to the end of the jig, because it really it really interferes with the action of the legs, just like this right here. So you know, I really like to get these in there. You know, there's some people that I don't rig them this way, but you know, there's some people they rig them like this. You know, you've got a much larger profile here. Those are good for your big salty chunks. You can see right there as it moves, it will side to side. This works really well in the summertime. I do not recommend this really for winter. I prefer this for summertime. You know, that's just me personally. I'm not saying that it's the Bible. I'm not saying it's law, but that's just me personally. That's kind of the way that I like to rig it. I want all of this action to be happening just like so. It's a really big profile. Remember what I said earlier, a really big bite. Last but certainly not least, little twin tail grub type, speed crawl, the back at you, whatever, they're all rigged the same way. Keep your scissors, use your mouth. I like to take these little appendages that are right here. You can certainly put this on there full size if you so desire. But I like to come right in here, kind of cut that sucker off right there. So I'm left with this result. Take a jig, come in here just like this, right dead in the center, run it up there, keeping it straight. You'll come out right here about where the end of those ribs start to happen. That's on a back at you, for example. Rig it up there, push it up there, and now it's straight. Really good profile. I really love this stuff right here. This is probably one of my favorite summertime, just because of how much action you get, how much water displacement you get with this jig when you use it with these kind of tails like this. So these are my favorite ones. Structure fishing, rocks, brush piles. These are my favorite type of jig trailers to use right here, is these type of double tail grub, zoom speed crawl, back at you styles, just like this. That's my favorite one to use around stuff like that, or stuff around that area. So they are my favorite by far. I've caught a ton of fish this way. Modification wise, okay, we talked about modifications. All right, pull your jig out of the pack. It's just like this. Make sure she's all nice and she looks real good, just like that. Make sure there ain't no strands of silicone or rubber or whatever type of jig it is in the weed guard or anything like that. You're gonna come right in here. I always do this pretty much to the jigs, is I always stretch this bad boy out just like so. Get that little puppy just like this. I'm holding on to the back of the hook right here, okay? So you can see that. But that's kind of the result that you're gonna get right here. Then you take your scissors, you're gonna go straight across right here. You're gonna shorten up that profile a little bit, okay? I don't want it really necessarily to be like totally straight. A little bit jaggedy, as you can kind of see right there. It's kind of got a little bit of a dip right here, a little bit jaggedy, because that gives it a slightly natural look when the skirt unfurls. And as you're going to see the end result, there's the skirt. It's a lot shorter, okay? It's a lot more compact. When it's in the water and it's down there, it's going to flare out much larger, okay? And the last thing that you're going to want to do, and this tip right here with the weed guard, this is a weed guard tip. This tip is strictly for potentially like dock fishing, open water structure fishing, stuff like that. I will take about 4 or 5 of these strands just like so. I will bend that weed guard down. I'll come in here just like this with the scissors, get down right here really close, and I'll just cut them off. I'll cut off those handful of strands just like that, okay? Now I've thinned my weed guard out just a little bit more, okay? You can see I've thinned it out just a little bit. It's not as big, it's not as bulky. Open water, dock skipping, you know, like if the fish are grabbing this jig on the fall, hanging around docks, thin that weed guard up. It's going to help with some hookups. Because, you know, sometimes in the summertime when you're jig fishing specifically, there's some days where they just don't get the bait just right. You know, they may have it hanging out of their mouth. Sometimes they choke it. You know, when they choke it, rear down across their eyes. But sometimes you'll catch them if you notice them that they're getting it right here on the side of their mouth, or they're getting barely hooked right out here on the end of their mouth and stuff like that. They don't quite, they're just kind of, it's kind of more of a reaction strike than it is anything else. So Thinning your weed guard out will really help with hook penetration. I don't always recommend doing it around heavy cover, but I will do it around, like I said, around docks, skipping docks specifically, and then, you know, fishing open water structure. You know, you're dragging it on a deep road bed, you're dragging it on a ledge, you know, stuff like that. Maybe you're up on Chickamauga and you're dragging a big football jig. You know, you can thin the weed guard out just a little bit like that. So those little tips will help you. They will help your hookup ratio. And then here's, like I said, a little bit of a small little guide of my favorite little jig trailers to use in the summertime. Colors again, black and blue, green pumpkin. Sometimes a peanut butter and jelly works really well. I like to go with those sometimes, but for the most part, I'm either imitating crawfish, I'm imitating brim. Majority of the time in the summertime, believe it or not, you're imitating more brim than you are anything, okay? As we progress later on into the summer, more into, as we start talking September, late August, harvest moon time, which is really important, and stick with us. We'll be talking about that later on in the summer. Harvest moon time, crawfish come back out really hot and heavy around those times of the year, and they start eating crawfish pretty hard. So you know, but we'll get into that here at a later date on a later video, so stick around. Hope these tips helped you. If you like this content, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and hit that notification bell for more little tips from yours personally and some of the other guys out there that we have that are helping us along our page with our Fish North Georgia channel. And don't forget to tell your friends about us. As always, we love you guys. We appreciate you guys. You ever got any questions? Hit me up. I'm easy to get a hold of. Later.